Okay, so today I want to show you how to graph a region in the MyLab math program. And here I'm not so much going to be explaining the math. I've done that in a different video. Here I'm just going to be showing you how to enter your answer into the MyLab because it's not super obvious how to do it. So here I have a little example problem. This is from section 5.1, and we're being asked to graph a region, and we have an inequality. Actually, we have three inequalities. One is a primary one we're going to be working with, and we also have two non-negative inequalities stating that our x and our y have to be greater than or equal to 0. So the first thing I want to do is I want to write down my inequality. And so here we go. We have 12x minus 40y is less than 1200, which means that the first thing we're going to do before we worry about the inequality, we're going to worry about graphing the line, which is the boundary line. So, and our line is represented by an equation. Which is going to be 12x minus 40y equals 1200. Okay, and so as I explained on the other video, what we want to do, the quick and easy way to graph this line is to use the x and the y intercepts. So we are first going to set x equal to 0 and solve for y. And I'm going to just write the ordered pair with the y coordinate blank as of now. And then we're going to do the opposite. We're going to set our y equal to 0 and solve for x. And so once we have those two filled in, we're going to have 2 points that are on our line, and we're going to be able to graph it. So if we set x equal to 0, the first term's going to go away. And so that's going to give me negative 40y equals 1200. And so then my y is equal to 1200 divided by negative 40. Which is negative 30. And so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put that into my ordered pair. Right here. Let me fix that just a little bit. Okay, and so now if I do it the other way around and I set my y equal to 0, then the second term is going to disappear. And so we end up with 12x equals 1200. And so when we solve this for x, so that is going to give me 1200 over 12, which is 100. And you may be able to do all of that in your head or in your calculator and not even have to write anything. So now I'm going to put my 100 over here. So these are the 2 points that we want to graph in our MyLab math. So I'm going to come back over here to my program here where I'm logged into the Pearson site, and I'm going to click on the enlarge graph, and now I'm going to click on this little line tool right here. And so I want to first go to one of my 2 points. So if I go to 0, negative 30 right here, and then if I go to, and see here, it lets me just move the line around. So, but what I want is 100 comma 0. So I'm going to put that right here, and that gives me my line. But also notice here that what we would have is a strict inequality. Notice we have less than 1200. We are not allowed to equal 1200. So that means the ones right along the line won't work. So we want a dashed line instead of a solid line. So I'm going to click this, and it's going to turn it into dashed. And if I want, I can save here, and that way it'll be on my graph, and I can go back to it after I finish the rest, or I could keep going and doing the rest. So now I'm going to click on my enlarge graph again. So now I need to get those two non-negative inequalities. So these are our x bigger than or equal to 0. And my y bigger than or equal to 0. So don't forget those. So, and so to get the x bigger than or equal to 0, so I basically want to graph x equals 0. So that's going to be my y-axis, right? So I go to my line tool again, and I just click any 2 points on the y-axis. It doesn't matter which ones. That's going to give me a vertical line. And this one I do want to be solid because I do have an equal sign here. So now I want to get my x-axis. So I do my line tool again, and you'll notice it turned the first one blue and saved it. And so now I click any 2 on the x-axis. And so now that part's okay. And so now what I want to do, and if you click away from it, you can see the axes are now solid blue. So now what I want is I want to figure out which area I want. So I can choose several different areas here. Like if I picked this one, which is not necessarily the one I want, but I click on this little can of paint and I put it in here. Then it'll fill in whatever area I click in. So that's actually not what I wanted, so I'm going to delete that. And it'll ask me if I really mean it. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to do our little test point to see if my inequality is true or not. So if let me write down my inequality again over here in my handwriting area. So here I have, let me just draw a little vertical line here. I'm trying to make everything fit in the screen. Here I have 12x minus 40y less than 1200. And here I am wanting to put in a test point. So I'm going to put in a test point of 0, 0. I will use 0, 0 whenever it's not on the line because that's going to make my arithmetic as easy as possible. Okay, so here's my test point. And so this is going to give me 12 times 0 minus 40 times 0 less than 1200. Sorry, that went off the screen there. Let me just make it all a little bit smaller. Let me get rid of that and just move all this over so that you can see it. Okay, so now this gives me 0 less than 1200. Which is true. 0 less than 1200, and that's true. So that means I'm going to shade the half of the plane that includes 0, 0. So that means that we want to shade toward the origin on our line, our dashed line, but then we also want to make sure that we only get the first quadrant, because remember we have x bigger than or equal to 0 and y bigger than or equal to 0, which just puts us over in quadrant 1, so up here in the upper right. But we've got to shade towards 0 from the dashed line. So that means this region here where my arrow is the area that I want. So I'm going to click on my little paint can, and then I'm going to go click in the area that I want, and it's going to fill it in. And so I believe this is the graph that I want. And so now I'm going to click save. And so now I think everything looks correct. So I am going to check my answer. And it tells me I did excellent. So I sure hope this helps you figure out how to enter these graphs into the computer. If we had more than one line besides the axes, you just keep going, you just graph them all, and then you figure out, like on your paper, which area you want, and then you click in the area with your paint can and it should fill it in for you. Hope this helps. Good luck on your homework.